I have the mic on for you to hear me though, otherwise I'm talking just to myself, but thank you for watching tonight. I hope you're having a great night. I'm the BTC Reaper. My goal on this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading, whether the price is going up or down. So over on ALGO, we'll have to jump to the Dixie. We don't want ALGO yet. ALGO's at the end. So over on Dixie, we did start to break away from this channel possibility. So this channel could end up breaking us lower if we're not careful. Our RSI is pulling back, stochastic is starting to sell off, so overall we do have some bearish strength here. Our VWAP, our yellow wave, is starting to roll away, momentum is pushing down, and the stochastic is starting to push down as well. Sorry, that's bothering me a little bit, hearing myself in the past and present. Momentum is pushing down, so we do have this break. VWAP is bearish, momentum's bearish. If they continue to be bearish, money flow will start to reverse. So the lower time frames, if they start to favor more bearish, could end up breaking us down. Over on the 4 hour, we got an early breakdown. We did push down to where this channel would have taken us. We can move this, would have been a little lower, and we did wick to that point. So we will call this channel done. You can see we did come up to retest it, and we got a rejection. That rejection could mean we could see continued lows. We may make a bear flag here that could push us even lower and break our 103 area if we're not careful. So we did push down to our first level. That 103.662 is going to be the next. Our stochastic here on the 4 hour is starting to curl away. We do have that orange above blue, causing our red line, our RSI, to pull back. Overall, that does give price action the chance to break lower. Momentum is pushing in the bearish territory. VWAP is rejecting that neutral with a lower high and consistent low, so watch for a bearish trend to form here. If a bearish trend forms on this 4 hour, we're likely going to see that on the daily, and money flow will continue to weaken. Over on the 2 hour, stochastic is dropping down, RSI is heading down. That VWAP, excuse me, has a lower low. We are pushing down, momentum is weakening, and the money flow wants to push out as well. So overall, we look a little bearish yet. RSI is starting to pull back. Stochastic is pulling back as well. Our VWAP does want to round away from that neutral. We do technically have a lower high with this lower low. Here's a high, here's a high, here's your low on that neutral, here's a new low. So if we reject here, we could make a bearish trend on that yellow wave, our VWAP, which will bring our momentum, our blue wave, lower and cause money flow to continue to weaken, which in turn will weaken those higher time frames. Over on the total for the daily, we did have this flag possibility here too that wanted to push us up. We did try to push up and we did try to invalidate it all in the same candle. So we could jump to the 1 hour to kind of see how that played. So over on the 1 hour, you don't really see much of a push forward, but you do see that pretty decent breakdown. That breakdown did push us out of this flag. We are coming up to retest the flag. If we cannot break back into our flag and hold, we're likely going to see our altcoin sell off, and we could end up making a breakdown. But if the Dixie continues to weaken, crypto could push up because usually they are inversely related. Today and yesterday, they've been kind of acting more correlated. RSI does want to pull back. Our stochastic is starting to round away. VWAP is in the bullish territory, that yellow wave. So if it can continue further, momentum, our blue wave, could push up and push our money flow, that green wave, even higher. That would be good for the lower time frames. So right now, watch that VWAP to make higher highs with higher lows. If we can sustain this bullish favor, then momentum could push up, money flow could remain bullish, and that would give us a chance to push back into this flag and possibly run up. Remember, you do typically get bearish invalidations. Usually when you get 3 or more touches, you do want your break at that third touch. Otherwise, if you get more than that third touch, you do have that chance to break down and invalidate, which is what we saw. So quite a bit to unpack there on the 1 hour. Over on the daily, you can see we did wick up here on the daily. It's not really showing very well. We will delete all that though. Stochastic does want to run up. RSI is pushing forward. VWAP is in the bullish territory, but it's pulling back. So if the lower time frames favor more bearish, we could see this break down. Our momentum does want to round away. We are starting to pull back, which can cause that money flow to break down as well. Over on the 4 hour here, we are getting a bit of a push down toward that blue EMA. We do want to push up with this long lower shadow. If we can solidify a long lower shadow here, that could show that the bears are losing their control and they could start to get retraced and we could see a push forward. Our RSI is pulling back, Stochastic's pulling back, momentum is rounding, and that VWAP is favoring bearish, so I would exercise caution and watch the lower time frames. Money flow does want to pull back, so overall the 4-hour looks like it is weakening. Over on the 2-hour, VWAP is in the bearish territory. We have a lower low, but we also have a higher high, so watch very close. If we can break back into the bullish territory, we could see this VWAP carry forward. That would help push momentum higher, and then our money flow could run up with it. But if this VWAP creates a bearish trend where we get lower highs with lower lows here, we will see our blue wave pull back, causing money flow to sell off and weakening the higher time frames. Over on the 1-hour here, we are trying to push up. We have our EMA bands, 3 EMA bands real close together, so I would watch. If we break above them, we could get a pretty solid move up to that 743 still. However, if we do break down, we could end up rejecting lower and pushing down to our 300 EMA, right around that 687 area if we're not careful. Our RSI does want to pull back, stochastic is starting to round away, money flow wants to pull back, and the VWAP does have slightly lower highs. So watch, we do have higher lows, so if we can confirm a higher high or a consistent high with bullish favor, then we could see a bullish trend push momentum forward and give our money flow strength. However, if that VWAP does break down, we could end up rejecting away and seeing these lower time frames become bearish. I would watch very close here. Over on Bitcoin dominance, we're only going to cover the daily on this. I don't think the hourly and them really matter on dominance too much. If you feel different, drop something in chat or drop a comment if you're watching after the live. But we do have the chance to pull back to this gapped area still. We are trying to trend forward, so that does want to push Bitcoin dominance higher. Bitcoin did decrease, but total decreased more than Bitcoin today. Stochastic does want to round away. RSI is starting to pull back. That VWAP does want to push down, but we are favoring bullish. If we can continue to favor bullish here, our momentum may push forward, and the money flow could continue to gain some strength. If anyone just joined, welcome. Thanks for joining. Don't show any new joins yet, but that's a little behind. Over on the 4-hour, we do want to push up to our 300 EMA, but we're starting to struggle here. If we cannot break that 300 EMA, we could start to weaken and see that daily breakdown. So I would exercise caution. VWAP does want to round, momentum's trying to push down, stochastic does want to round, and our RSI is starting to push down, so stochastic starts to favor more bearish. RSI will bring this lower. So we will jump to futures now, since we did the 4-hour and I said I was just going to do the daily. Over on futures, we do have a bearish engulfing candle right below that value area high of our Fibonacci fixed range volume profile, flipping between the two. Over on our fixed range volume profile here, we are pushing up. We do have that bearish engulfing candle that does want to break us lower. If we cannot get strong green candles here, we could start to curl away, retest that 69K like we warned, and possibly break to our 65.5 if we cannot hold that 69K. Our RSI and stochastic are starting to sell off. Momentum has a double red dot as that VWAP does want to pull back. If that VWAP does break down, we could see this momentum continue lower, and then that would cause that VWAP to continue to weaken. Money flow could break down. Right now, that VWAP does want to break through the neutral, so watch very close. We do have a lower high, so if we make a lower low here, we could see momentum pull back, break money flow lower, and then that would lead futures lower. And as futures does lead Bitcoin price, that could also lead Bitcoin lower as well. So over on the 4-hour, we do have a chance of bullish consolidation, just all over the place, having a presidential moment apparently. But we do have a bullish flag here that does want to push us up, as created with a consolidation range after a break forward that could try to push us up right around that 74.6. Our side does want to head up. Stochastic is pulling back. VWAP does have lower lows with lower highs, so I would watch. That is a bit of a bearish trend. If that bearish trend continues, our momentum will continue to weaken, and our price action could end up weakening with that money flow. So I would exercise caution and watch the lower time frames. Over on the 2-hour, we do have a gap down here right around that 70K, and we do have a gap down below right around 71.2. So if we do run up, I would exercise caution because we have a couple gaps below us, that's 70K, and then we also have one right around this 67K. So even if we do see this bullish breakout, we could end up retracing and breaking down to those areas, both on Bitcoin and futures. RSI wants to pull back. VWAP is pushing down, momentum's favoring bearish, stochastic is pushing down, and if that VWAP does not reverse, our momentum and VWAP are bearish, so that will bring our money flow lower and bring it into the bearish territory, giving us a trend reversal. So I would watch as that trend reversal, if it prolongs, could start to weaken the higher time frames and bring us lower. Our RSI does want to pull back here on the 1 hour. Stochastic does look like it wants to make a bit of a bounce, but I would watch. It could make a lower high, cross over, and push down. If it does that, RSI could break down, and price action will follow. Momentum is pushing down, but the VWAP does want to break that neutral, and it has a consistent low. It's not a very strong low, but I would watch. If this consistent low is followed by weaker highs, we could end up pushing lower and breaking down still. So we do have a big gap here on the 1 hour. We're at that 71.1, so hopefully we would push down, fill that gap, and continue forward. But again, if we do that, just watch if we get bearish momentum, because that could pull us down to our lower gaps. Over on Bitcoin for the daily, we are in a bit of the same flag. We did call this in our Discord that on the lower time frames we could have a flag within a flag, so we'll have to see how that looks. Our stochastic does want to round away. RSI is starting to pull back. That VWAP does want to break down. Thank you for joining us. Money flow does want to break down as well. So if our yellow wave, our VWAP does break with that momentum rounding off, that money flow could go from being green into the red, and we could see a trend reversal here too. And remember, we do have those gaps below us on futures, so I would watch. Over on the 4 hour, we keep hitting the top of this channel, so I would exercise caution. This could be a very loose double top where you get this rise, a little bit of a drop, a rise, and then another drop, which could end up dropping you lower. So you do have your neckline where your kind of points would connect. You draw from your neckline to your head, apply your point from your neckline down, and that would give us a break of 69.7. So I would watch. If we cannot hold that, we may push to that 69K support. Momentum does want to pull back. Stochastic is selling off. RSI is following. So if that stochastic continues to drop, RSI will continue to drop as well, and that will bring price action lower with them. VWAP is in a bearish trend. We do have lower lows with lower highs, so that is bringing that momentum lower and weakening this money flow. If that VWAP does not reverse, that money flow could get a trend reversal, and that would cause the daily to reverse as well. Over on the 2 hour here, we are trying to push forward. We did get a manipulation X, but we are trying to push above it. Remember, usually they play out more when you see pairs, so I would exercise caution and watch for a second one. RSI does want to pull back. Our momentum is pushing down. VWAP does have lower lows with weak highs, so if we continue to favor bearish here, our momentum will break down, money flow could flip, and then that will weaken the higher time frames. Over on the 1 hour here, our VWAP is zigzagging around. It's really not very bullish or bearish. Our lows are very consistent, but so are the highs, and we're not really favoring much one side or the other. Our momentum does want to push down though, so I would watch that. We do have a very slight higher low. If that VWAP can break through and hold, we may see momentum push up. If that does happen, our money flow could remain bullish. However, if this VWAP rejects here, momentum will remain bearish. Money flow will flip bearish, and if that maintains for several candles, that's where we'll see those higher time frames start to push down, weaken, and possibly break us to those support levels on futures. So over on graph for the daily, we did kind of reject away after getting a little bit of a bounce off that red EMA. So we did kind of pull back from all those EMAs. We have that blue, green, and yellow all at the same area, and we got a pretty solid rejection today. If we cannot break through them soon, we may start to roll away toward that 300 EMA, which is that black line there. Remember, we are using Market Cipher A and B, these versions right here. They are free, just like TradingView. Stochastic does want to round away. VWAP is in the bearish territory. It's trying to break bullish, but we have a red dot on momentum, which is suggesting that that VWAP could round away and reject here. If that VWAP does round away and reject, we will have a bearish trend that will bring momentum and money flow lower. As that money flow would reject, we could see price action drop down to our 1636 if we do not hold that Fibonacci band. Over on the 4 hour here, we did push up to that 300 EMA. We did try to run through our other EMAs, and then we got pretty brutal rejection, which was pushing us lower. RSI is pulling back, stochastic is dropping down, VWAP is starting to favor bearish, so I would watch that VWAP close as it's bringing the momentum lower and causing money flow to sell off, which is leading price action lower as well. So over on these lower time frames like the 1 and 2 hour, if we cannot flip more bullish, we may see our altcoins sell off a bit more here. RSI is pulling back on the 2 hour, stochastic's pretty beat down. It needs to round up and push strong if that RSI is going to be prevented from bringing price action lower. We are trying to push up, but we did make a gap in doing so I would watch for a round back to that 29-cent level, and if we break that psychological support, we could continue lower from there. Our momentum is pushing into the bearish territory. VWAP is favoring bearish here as well, which is causing money flow to favor in the bearish territory. We have a pretty significant wave in the red here. If that VWAP does not reverse, we will see those higher time frames start to reject away. Over on the 1 hour here, our VWAP is attempting to break bullish, but don't be fooled. We did try to do it back here, and it wasn't very strong. So if the VWAP does not sustain above the 0, we will see momentum remain bearish and money flow will continue to favor bearish, which will cause those higher time frames to weaken. So over on Ankr for the daily, we are retesting the top of our flag, attempting to pull back into it just like we warned about. So exercise caution and watch, as this could end up bringing us lower still. Remember, we mentioned that whales can manipulate you one way, try to fake you out, and then bring you back the other way. So our VWAP does want to push up, stochastic is trying to push higher. RSI is starting to kind of curl away, so I would watch that stochastic close. If the stochastic starts around, we will see that RSI bring price action lower. Momentum is trying to push up, but with the VWAP kind of curling away, if that VWAP breaks for a lower low, our momentum will curl away and money flow could reject. So watch the lower time frames, they need to be more bullish. Over on the 4 hour, we have a pretty strong bearish engulfing candle, and now we have an indecision candle. This indecision candle is showing that we do have a chance to make a bounce here, but we're going to need to be followed by a bullish engulfing candle. Excuse me, so it's getting a bit dry. If we do not follow with that bullish engulfing candle, which would be a green candle as big as this red candle, then we could continue lower, break down, push to our 42.89, and possibly still push to our 40.49. However, if we do get that candle, we need to break that 300 EMA and hold above it if we're going to get continued bullish momentum. Stochastic does want to round away. We do have that orange above blue, and we do have a bit of a bearish cross here. You can see that highlighted by that red line. That does want to bring us lower, so exercise caution, as that will weaken RSI, which will in turn weaken price action. VWAP is pushing into the bearish territory, so I would exercise caution because that will bring momentum and money flow lower and weaken that daily. Over on the 2 hour here, path tool right there, you have a rise, a drop, a rise, a drop. So we could drop down all the way here, and we do have a pretty significant rise and drop, so that is a pretty big double top that could end up breaking us lower. That breakdown could be right around that 41.49, so we have a little confluence with our other bearish pattern. I would watch very close if we cannot break and hold above this zone. Our stochastic is pulling back, RSI is pulling back as a result. Momentum is weakening due to that VWAP favoring bearish with lower lows and lower highs, which is weakening money flow as well. If that VWAP does not reverse soon, momentum will break down, and our money flow could flip from being green into the red, and we could see the bears gain control here, which would in turn weaken those higher time frames. Over on the 1 hour, our hope for a kind of bounce here is that we're going sideways, but sideways after a drop down is a bear flag that can break you lower, so exercise caution still. We could have a different pattern if we do consolidate and push sideways. RSI is starting to drop down. VWAP has lower lows with lower highs, causing momentum to drop, and our money flow does want to weaken. If that VWAP stays in this bearish territory here, momentum will continue to break down, money flow will flip bearish, and then that could lead the higher time frames lower. So over on XRP for the daily, we are starting to reject away. We do have a bit of a rounding top that could be forming here. If we follow this with another red candle that kind of pulls us below either of these green candles, we could see that push down to our 50 support. Remember, that can push us to the bottom of our flag breakdown possibility of 44 if we do not meet any support there. So our RSI does want to pull back. Stochastics rounding away, that VWAP does want to break that neutral, that zero. So if that VWAP does break down here, momentum will reject away and money flow will pick up further bearish strength. That would in turn weaken us and drop us lower. So I would exercise a bit of caution and watch the lower time frames. That's pretty much the theme of the night. But over on the 4-hour, we did push up to our second highest EMA and we did get rejected. I believe that's the 250. So sorry about that. If you go to Market Cipher A here, go to the gear, there's our styles, there's our inputs. So yeah, that's 250. So that's 250 4-hour candles. If we cannot break above this EMA band and hold, it's very likely we will continue to break away. We did try several times. Stochastics pushing down, RSI is weakening, momentum is rounding off as that VWAP favors bearish, which is causing our money flow to break down and reject that neutral. So the 4-hour doesn't look very positive here. Over on the 2-hour, we did break that 300 EMA pretty quick. We are trying to retrace some of the losses, so if we cannot break through and hold, then we will see a continued breakdown from there. RSI is pulling back, stochastics dropping down. Our VWAP is favoring bearish, causing momentum to drop down and weakening money flow. If that VWAP does not reverse, our momentum will continue lower and money flow will start to weaken those higher time frames. Excuse me. Over on the 1-hour here, we are trying to stair step our way up, but we're kind of struggling, so I would exercise caution right around that EMA level. If we cannot break and hold with some bullish strength, we can break down. Back here, we did break up, but the VWAP was heading down as we broke up. Money flow was still bearish. We really didn't have very much going besides that momentum. Right now, we have a very similar environment where VWAP is more bearish, momentum's more bearish, money flows in the bearish territory. So if we cannot see these things reverse, we could end up pumping up, rejecting, and pushing lower if we're not careful still. So finally, over on ALGO, unless you'd like something else, drop a comment, drop something in chat, then we could cover it. But over on ALGO, we are starting to round away. This is a bearish engulfing candle. It does want to break us down, so I would exercise caution. VWAP is starting to pull back, is hitting that neutral and struggling. If that VWAP makes a lower high here, we could create a bearish favor with those lower highs and lower lows. That would cause the momentum to continue to weaken and money flow could continue to pull back then. I would watch if the 1 and 2 hour are more bearish, then we could see the 4-hour start to continue lower, which would weaken that daily. Our stochastic is pushing down here on the 4-hour, RSI is pulling back. VWAP is starting to get lower lows with lower highs, so we have a bearish trend here, causing momentum to push down and causing money flow to weaken. So overall, that's not very good, and that's what's causing that daily to push down and start to break down. Over on the 2-hour, we did hit our 300 EMA. We're struggling to break through it, and overall, we are pulling back. We are trying to make a little bit of a rounding bottom, but this green candle here is very weak in my opinion. We need to follow it with a strong green candle that would break that 300 EMA. Otherwise, we could end up pulling back and rejecting. VWAP does want to break down after trying to break bullish, which is causing momentum to pull back, and money flow is selling off as a result. So I would watch. This 2 hours not very bullish either. Over on the 1-hour, we have a bit of consolidation after getting that push down, so I would watch because that could create a bear flag that could push us even lower. Remember, a consolidation after a push down is what creates that bear flag. Consolidation after a break up creates a bull flag. That bear flag could push us right around that 18-cent level, and if we cannot hold that, remember we have our 1618 below us. Stochastic is dropping down, RSI is overall rounding away, momentum is in the bearish territory because that VWAP is favoring bearish as well. If that VWAP does not get a higher high with higher lows from here, momentum will continue to pull back, money flow would break down, and then that would weaken the higher time frames and continue to drop us lower.